A community of allies have come together, many of them from marginalized spaces themselves. They are standing with compassion and the willingness to learn and spread awareness so that as a nation, the people of the United States can move beyond the legacy of white supremacy, sexism, and classism to realize equity for all. One of these allies, who works tirelessly to promote social justice, is A.M. Davies. We had the opportunity to speak with A.M., who is a veteran stripper, an ally for the marginalized, and the secretary for Soldiers of Pole, a labor movement for sex workers that specializes in strippers. We asked A.M. what she does specifically to maintain cultural competency. Here is her answer.
I do a lot of educating myself, and then continuous education so that I can really allow it to sink in and then regurgitate it to others. And I am just constantly in conversation. So the work that I do, most people don't even see the work that I do because I'm having conversations with several people all day long, and I have conversations with people who disagree with me, and conversations with people who agree with me, and conversations with people who teach me new things. And it's to sort of like build up this skill of talking to white people and using my privilege and my speaking skills and my negotiating skills with talking to other white people to really get them to see the systemic issues that we've been assimilated into since birth.
Racism, classism, and sexism permeate most industries and social spaces in the U.S. Our intention is not to exclude anyone who is suffering from discrimination. For the purpose of this presentation, we are going to focus on race, sex, and class with examples of how these intersect on social media networks.
BIPOC artistic expressions such as twerking are being appropriated, and many of the original creators who have black and brown bodies are threatened with being deplatformed when posting videos or images of themselves performing their art. The same art performed, however, whitewashed by white bodies are essentially left alone.
We have culturally what we have gained from, I don't know if that's the right word, but that we've stolen. Let's use that word instead. Culturally, the music, the dress, the slang words we use, the dancing that we do. And I'm not speaking just about sex workers in this moment. I'm speaking generally, and especially, yes, this happens to sex work. We get all of that inspiration from people of color in general. And then we try to whitewash it and then push them out of the game that they created. And we see that very specifically. A really tangible example is twerking. And I've heard that people believe or think that Miley Cyrus created twerking, and I just think that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Because I saw twerking, when I first became a stripper in 2002, and I mostly saw white dancers doing it. And because I mostly worked with white dancers, because most clubs are racist, and that was all stolen from black and brown dancers. And I think that we need to stop stealing their stuff. Or if we're inspired and want to move the way or use the things, to acknowledge where we got those things from, and then to educate others on where we get our inspiration from, because without them, we wouldn't have so many things.
Those who are in the stripping industry are aware of the hierarchical positions dancers inhabit. There appears to be a certain class of entertainer who's being deleted or shadow banned from social media. From consuming content on social media and having conversations with people who are being deleted, it appears that most of the white bodies who are performing a style of pole dance called Russian exotic are not being deleted. Russian exotic portrays thin white bodies. It does not showcase the ethnic style of pole dance, which often portrays performers that have thicker bodies and darker skin and includes twerking. These characteristics are often categorized as lower class performers in the eyes of people who demonstrate racist and classist behaviors. I want to make clear that we are not taking a negative position against those who enjoy Russian exotic, rather a critique of the system that privileges white bodies. We are simply sharing of the lived experiences of artists on Instagram.
It is no secret that there is a certain demographic of sex worker who is relatively unaffected by the criminalization of sex work. The literature has demonstrated that the people who suffer the most from these laws are black trans women of color who turn to sex work for a myriad of reasons, many for survival. Those unaffected and out of the radar of law enforcement are encouraged to use their privileged voices to educate and help pave the way for a change in legislation that will help those most harmed by these laws.
I think, understanding what decriminalization of sex work is and what that looks like and why it's so important, and being able to have conversations around the subject of sex workers with other civilians. That's, in case you're not sure, sex workers refer to people who aren't sex workers as civilians. And so to speak with other civilians on the importance of decriminalization surrounding sex work, because those bills will start to come up, and we need American citizens to talk to their local, lawmakers and politicians when these things come up. And not just American citizens, everyone, as a matter of fact. But when it comes to voting, if it's on the ballot, vote for decriminalization if it comes up on the ballot. Sign the petitions and do the calls to your local, politicians and lawmakers, because decriminalization will save so many sex workers' lives. Specifically Black trans sex workers who need protection the most. Literally, Black trans sex workers are the most marginalized, vulnerable people on the planet, because sex workers are looked at as the lowest form of people in general. And we already know through learning that Black trans people are some of the most vulnerable. So you put a Black trans person as a sex worker, and it's just they need us the most. And that's where I come from when I do this work, is how do I support them the most?
Addressing these issues at the intersection of race, class, and gender will help spread awareness regarding racial disparities among sex workers. Once we acknowledge and recognize these issues of marginalized sex workers, racial healing can begin.